running in the second seat, the South District for the Pirate Party, which kind of began as a little bit of a very nonchalant thing on my behalf, because when I was went forth and said, all right, I can participate, the support was somewhere around 0.1%. But what happened in the last 2 months is that now we're up to 10%, and there's a very real possibility that I might end up with some responsibilities here after these elections, which is great. Which is great. I'm all up for making some change. But I'm in China, very far from Iceland. I don't know how many, 8,000 kilometers, something like that. But that's modern times for you. You can run for elections 8,000 kilometers away from where you live, and the Pirate Party is actually kind of built around that, or very related to that concept in the way that we are kind of the internet party, if you could do it so. We're the party of the internet generation. And there's a lot more to that actually than maybe people might think. It started, the Pirate Party is not an Icelandic thing, it's an international thing. It started in 2006 in Sweden. How many people know Pirate Bay? I feel like it's not very popular in China, but I think most Westerners know it because that's where we steal all our stuff. That's where we see all the videos and take all the movies and all that thing. And it's of course very debated back in the West. Oh, here we are. Isn't it pretty? It's very very popular in the West to pirate stuff, you know. But of course, the pirates, with in their discourse, they are not stealing stuff; they're sharing stuff. And this is two different ways to maybe look at the same thing. The pirate name originally was like a bad name that the people in Hollywood called this, but the Pirate Bay actually kind of owned up to it and just took over the name, and now they proudly call themselves pirates. Since 2006, it's become pretty big. It's in more than 40 countries right now, registered pirate parties. They have around Europe in a lot of countries. They have elected some local in some local governments, have some members. The Swedish pirate party has been really successful getting into the European. What do you call it? The European Parliament, which is pretty powerless, but nonetheless has some kind of constructive role in Europe. So yeah, I was not sure what to call this before, so I came up with two different titles: crowdsourcing of government, and then I'm playing with like this word crowdsourcing that everybody wants to use these days, or maybe hackers hacking democracy. And this whole event is so awesome, by the way. I hadn't been here for a long time this morning when I got stuck in the hackerspace over there. I feel like more people should check it out. It's awesome. And there was this two brilliant Chinese guys that I had my own little project, and they kind of just deconstructed it and made it much better in a few minutes because they're awesome. They're brilliant. They are used to this. They can read it. This is just something that they know a lot about. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a hacker in a way, except for maybe in the original meaning of hacker, like some guy that doesn't really, it's not an expert, but rather just takes things apart. I love to do that. I know a lot of people in Iceland that love to do that. I belong to a hackerspace back home and so on. And it's out of this kind of community that we get the pirate party. In Iceland, we had an economic collapse several years ago and a lot of political turmoil. What happened was that one side of society really wanted to get some kind of reforms, democratic reforms, and we had a lot of experiments going on recently with different kind of referendums, and we had this constitutional parliament going up. It was actually, people called it crowdsourced also, because it was kind of used the tools of the internet and so on to get the ideas from the people and all that. But on the other side, you also have a lot of very conservative powers that have been like really fighting back. And we're going to see next year how it goes. But this is the wave that the Pirate Party is kind of riding right now in Iceland. And it starts in Iceland maybe around the WikiLeaks things. They had like a headquarters in Iceland for a while, and a lot of members of the parliament were related to them because they really, really believe in the freedom of information is the kind of the future that we need to have. we have this system in Iceland that actually have only like 4 parties available most of the times. It's just sometimes the system decides the outcome. And we can see it in America. You can only have kind of 2 parties. It's impossible to get kind of other kind of outcomes. Our system is a representative, proportional representative, whatever you call it. And then we have this kind of system for 60 years where always kind of the same parties with the kind of same power balance with a little variations. And we're trying to get into that system. It's really hard. But now is the opportunity, and people are kind of giving us a little bit of a chance. What we I say from 0 to hero, but actually we went from, like I said, from 0 to maybe 10%. But that might give us like five members of parliament, and I would say a lot of power, a lot of opportunities to get our voice heard. The original issues of the Pirate Base is like, no, the Pirate Party is, like I said before, is that copyright thing, this huge copyright thing, and maybe also the privacy on the internet, that whole issue. But today it's so much bigger. What happened is when people in the Pirate Party started thinking about democracy and information and all that big question about who owns an idea, you quickly can see how this reflects in all the power structure within society. The people that controls the idea, the people that controls the flow of information are the people that control everything in a way, be it through money, be it through government or whatever. And I would say us, the internet generation, we had different experience. We have had like this brief moment in history where we can just access all kinds of information that maybe was not meant for us. We were maybe not supposed to know all this stuff. We know too much, and we're getting very dangerous in a way. And now we can see very, very obviously back in the West that people are trying to regulate it away from us again. And what we do, well, if these countries are really democratic, in our mind we think, well, then we should be able to use the democracy to push back. All right. So, the methods that we use is maybe kind of based on the model of community building that we know from the internet. You know, on the internet, you see these different internet communities. Some are really, really good. The system is awesome. If the system is good, it's kind of self-governing, you don't have to control it, you get this huge, beautiful culture of internet culture happening within the community. It's self-sustainable and gets really good results. Other systems are really badly designed. It can just dissolve into anarchy, or you have to control it really, really hardly, really, really strictly. And that kind of gives us the idea that if you kind of design the system right, you don't have to force people to do things right. So we kind of want to change the system in a way. What we have done in the Pirate Party is that unlike all the other political parties, we have no hierarchy. There's no boss or whatever. There's nothing like that. The only thing that we have is the system, is the software that we created, and we're always fixing. And that's the way. It's like Wikipedia or whatever. This is what everybody can access. You don't have to be a member or anything. We have this kind of discussion that goes on. We have this whole process that ends up with some kind of policy. And usually, in my mind, the policy is awesome. And the only thing that we have to have in mind is it has to be kind of based on these basic principles of information freedom and so on. So our basic principle is, as you can see here, or maybe not, is critical thinking and informed policy. Civil rights, we're very liberal. Maybe that's the sign of our youth, very young party. The emphasis on privacy, transparency and responsibility, which is this whole thing that we want just the government to be completely transparent thing. Just our vision of a future government is this almost powerless Wikipedia-like system where everybody can see everything, how everything kind of happened. And we see no reason why that would not be more preferable than today. Information freedom and freedom of expression, and then the direct democracy and self-governing. So, what that means is that we have kind of developed a lot of policies that have nothing to do with the internet, just based on these kind of principles, based on that system that we created. For instance, we, in the last 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, when the elections have gotten closer, and a lot of people we've gotten a lot of focus from the media and so on, people have been coming to us and like, what about feminism? What about the environment and so on? The usual. So one story, my cousin came to me, and she was like, I won't vote for you because you don't have any environmental policy. And she is like an environmental enthusiast, and studies that a lot. I was not going to say nothing. And I was like, hey, you're really, really smart and know a lot about it. What I kind of urge you to do is kind of just subscribe to our system and all our kind of different groups out there, and try to rally people to make environmental policy. And she did. She got like 30 people with her, and just 2 or 3 days ago, we got the our environmental policy up, and it was voted by all of us in the end, you know. And this is great. It's a great kind of outcome. I love this new policy, and I also love how it came to be. You know, the whole thing here about the Pirate Party that we can try to tell people, like, they ask us, do you have the solutions? And we say, well, no, but we have the discussion, you know, that leads to the solution. We're not going to pretend that we know all the solutions, but we are going to stand firmly that if you have the right kind of discussion, we can all work together to find a solution, even with the other parties. Nobody in the Pirate Party feels like everybody should vote for the Pirate Party. We should be 100% to get all the seats in the parliament. That doesn't make any sense to us. We all really, really want to be able to activate different kind of parts of society to work together. And I feel that this is a big part of democracy that the West is kind of ignoring a lot right now. So, this is the compass for our little map. In Iceland, we have this. This is all the Icelandic political parties. You don't need to know anything about that. That's very uninteresting, I would think. But this is authoritarianism, and this is liberalism. This goes from socialism to capitalism. And you can see a little trend here. It goes like this. The more capitalistic, you get more liberal. The more kind of socialistic, you get more authoritarian, or whatever you can call it. So that's very understandable, that because if you're socialist, you want to intervene. And if you want to intervene, how are you going to do that? If you're unless giving up some of the liberal ideas. But actually, the Pirate Party is way up here. We're like the only one in that quadrant. We're doing things that a lot of people would say would be contradictory. They would say, like, how can you be socialistic party that really believes in kind of this communalism, or whatever you would call that, and at the same time liberal in like much more liberal than all the other parties? And we say that's all built on our experience, our generation's experience from the internet, where you kind of can construct new paradigms, new philosophies, new norms through discourse, through discussion, and so on. So we still want to keep the social democratic aspect. I think all of us are very, very agree on that, because that's Scandinavian way. But we don't want to intervene in people's life, and we believe we can do that actually by activating people. So if there's one thing that I want to sum this whole thing up, is maybe that the Pirate Party stands for like dialogue before solution, and that can actually change society. Is there any questions?
Question about one of the pillars you mentioned at the beginning was direct democracy. And as an American who looks at California and sees the mess that it is, that can be a huge problem. How do you rectify the idea of you working within a representative system and the ideal of direct democracy? And do you actually want to participate in a representative system, or are you looking for a direct democracy? And if so, how do you prevent it just being a huge mess?
It's a good question, and the example of California is just a good example of a very badly designed system. If you have a badly designed system, you get bad results. That's just how it is. And there's a very good reason for why we haven't had direct democracy in modern times. It's because for our size of society, we need representative system for it to work, simply for technological reasons, if we could put it like that. But not anymore. And the funny thing is, like, for the longest time, until maybe very recently, I kind of always thought, like, yeah, like, internet is awesome. You could, like, in the future, you could just maybe vote through the internet and so on. But that was as far as it got in my mind. But it has all these opportunities in the internet to kind of activate people in much more way. And so the Pirate Party's agenda is that we want to go away from the representative system to more of a direct system. But we have to do it. We cannot do it like in California or anything. We cannot make some selected people choose the agenda. We have to be able to make a system that really kind of reflects what's happening in society. And how can I say? We believe we can do that through the software we're building, and we're kind of fixing right now.
I'm kind of curious because I think when you're talking about interacting with the society and the populace, in most cases you're absolutely right. There isn't any information that can be put out. But are there other situations, like maybe when you're interacting between nations, for example, where that wouldn't work to have all that information because you're doing more of like a negotiation process, for example, and you have some stuff you don't want them to know about, but if it's all over the internet,
yeah,
it kind of defeats that.
That's the whole thing about the WikiLeaks and national security and all that thing. And my major is international relations, and I'm actually kind of working in diplomacy. I'm very aware of the secrecy that has to be there. But I feel like that's something in the international system. It's not it's not a natural law. It's something that we chose for ourselves. And I agree that a country that chooses 100% transparency will kind of weaken itself in the international system. And it will be very, very hard for maybe a big country like the United States to do something like that at the moment, because they're trapped by their own power in a way. But it would be much easier for Iceland. And I feel like the society and the people in the country should say like whatever, screw it. Like whatever interest it is, our interest should always be about that, you know. Yeah, that's maybe the privilege of living in a very small, secure place in the world and so on. But maybe maybe that's idealistic view on the future.
How do you sort of reconcile the implications for, I guess, participation? Because I look at this in a couple of different ways. On the one hand, it's very exciting because you have all this information available to you, at your fingertips, and you can participate whenever you want, and there are so many channels and so many ways. But at the same time, I think some people would argue that that just leads to sort of even more like, sort of like apathetic attitude towards it, in terms of like, oh, okay, if deciding that, political matter is as easy as like a thumbs up or something like that on, like on your Facebook, or you like a page or something like that. So what does this mean for?
I feel like in my answer to that actually, and that's not necessarily the Pirates Party answer, is that what you need to do is you need to keep no decisions should be big enough to kind of destroy the whole country. You just have to fragment it a lot, so there's a room for trial and error. And I feel like all the major decisions should be split into very small units. So it only involves your nearest community, because that's something that you really care about usually, and it's less frequent than the whole thing, And then that will kind of build up to the bigger decisions and so on. So if there's like this crazy part of Iceland that has very weird ideas and so on, they can go ahead with that, but wouldn't risk the rest so much, Kind of defragilize the system by splitting it up a little bit. The decision, yes.
I would say, and to add to that a little bit more, a lot of the reason why people feel apathetic in these kinds of political cultures is with representative democracy, especially like what they have in America, where the winner takes all. They don't feel like their voice matters. And the stuff that people are talking about are a lot of times things that they're not interested in anyway. But if, like Wikipedia, for example, level of involvement will be whatever they're capable of, or whatever they're interested in, or whatever they're knowledgeable about. But the fact that it's actually open and they can see how their efforts have a direct impact on how the policy takes shape, it'll be much more engaging and motivating for people, whereas if they just check a box, it's not very clear that has any meaning at all.
I agree with you, but I think what and I do like very much the idea of crowd surfing. What I worry about is when that crowd becomes more of a mob. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, so that was kind of answer to that. I would like feel like, yeah, that will happen, but you can kind of make it less dangerous by kind of isolate it a little bit more.
I'm too busy to be involved in direct democracy. I have important TV shows I have to watch.
Right.
So, I mean, you know,
Yeah, I'm
this
very
is why I
familiar
pay
with
someone to represent my interests.
I feel like, I'm sorry about, because he said there's only 1 minute left.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the only thing that I would like to add to this whole, we're kind of like naive in that sense, that we really believe in information here. That's the whole thing. We feel like if people are actually really informed, have the access to information, and you know, you can say that media kind of distorts our vision of reality and so on. So like, we will never have meaningful democracy until all these channels, until the channels of information leading to us will be kind of clean. I don't know how to say that. I don't want to sound like very fascist here. I'm not going to decide what people are going to learn or something. I'm just saying, yeah, all right. But because that's exactly, we don't want to decide for people what kind of information we get. But we just want to make the system in the way that we always get all sides of the matter and right perspective on the different emphasis that every side has. So that's it for today. Thank you.